Good evening, honored guests, faculty, administrators, family, friends, and most importantly, class of 2018. My name is Giulianna Iona, and it is my pleasure to stand before you all at this time as Salutatorian of the senior class. Before I begin, I'd like to extend a thank you to Mr. Kane for allowing me to make this speech. You told me that no one would be reviewing or revising my speech before I stepped up to this podium, and I appreciate your trust in my discretion. I'd also like to apologize in advance if this oration is not of the same literary merit that you had anticipated. It's a bit unorthodox, to say the least. I understand that this is the third speech that you will all be hearing this evening, and seniors, I can just sense your restlessness. I know you just want to grab your diploma, pose for a ludicrous amount of pictures of every member of your extended family, and drive out of the parking lot never to see this place again. Trust me, I'm right there with you. So, I'll try to make this speech as quick and painless as possible. I could stand up here and recite to all of you the stereotypical version of a salutatorian speech, one where I ramble on and on about how amazing high school was, how this moment will lead us to the next milestone in our lives, and how we can become whatever we dream to be. First of all, don't flatter yourselves. Whatever is a strong word. We aren't all rocket scientists here, myself included, and we're not necessarily splitting atoms. Second of all, there's nothing inspiring about cliches, so believe me, I'll make sure that this speech precludes you from counting sheep. Frankly, if my intentions were to bore you to death, I'd be up here reading Zane's speech. But no hard feelings. You know what they say, first is the worst, second is the best. Or, at least that's what I've been trying to tell myself. For the next few minutes, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a straight shooter, painfully sarcastic, and occasionally honest to a fault. So instead of giving you the High School Musical version of our 4-year experience, I'm just going to tell it how it was. So let's get to it. Freshman year. For being little fish in a big pond, or should I say lake, man, do we think we were cool. We barely knew our way around the building, yet we felt like we owned the place. Middle school was a thing of the past, and we were big kids now. The funny thing is that everyone despised us, and at the time we could never understand why. But now, as we walk the halls and pass by the freshmen, we can't help but roll our eyes and think about how irritating and obnoxious they are. But what was it that made us so exasperating? Was it our disregard for everybody else when we would congest the hallways by aimlessly wandering to find our classes or stopping to chat with our friends? Was it because some of us took gym class a little too seriously? Was it our audacity to try and sit in the cafeteria's allocated senior section? Or was it the select few of us who thought that swapping saliva between classes with our 2-week-old boyfriend-girlfriend just couldn't wait until after school? The world may never know. Sophomore year, we were no longer freshmen. That's about it. Junior year, unlike our sophomore year, our junior year was actually relevant, arguably too relevant. SATs, subject tests, AP tests, ASVAB tests, driver's tests, junior year was test galore. This influx of exams mixed with severe procrastination and the early onset of senioritis concocted a recipe for disaster. Literally. Junior year was a train wreck and a half, to say the least. I know many of you seated behind me are probably thinking, I was on the honor roll my junior year. It couldn't have been that bad. Maybe not everyone's grades reflected it, but we all know that junior year was far from a cakewalk. More like a cake run. A cake marathon, except there wasn't actually any cake, just tears. Lots of tears. Junior year taught us how to finish our homework 3 minutes before it was collected and how to run off 2.5 hours of sleep. Not because our work realistically took that long to complete, but because we managed to wait until 11 p.m. to start research papers and projects that were due the next morning. Side effects of junior year included, but were not limited to, sleep deprivation, reaching brain capacity, questioning everything, internal screaming, physical manifestation of stress, increased need for caffeinated beverages, declining grades, and/or spontaneous combustion. Senior year. We made it. 3 years of pure agony had finally come to our close. This was our year, our time, and our last chance not to give a damn about virtually anything before stepping out into the real world. The real world. We seniors seem to hear those words a lot. Pretty soon we'll be on our own, free to do whatever we want and go wherever we want, but also free to cook and clean for ourselves, run our own errands, do our own laundry, pay our own bills, maintain a job, support ourselves financially. But gee, am I glad that my 13 years of schooling taught me how to integrate complex trig functions, sorry Miss Connors, how to properly circumambulate the Kaaba during Ramadan, and how to play hot cross buns on the recorder instead of learning how to file taxes or pay off student loans or apply for a mortgage. However, senior year has taught me some valuable lessons, such as how to consistently arrive to class 15 seconds before the late bell rings, how to pull myself out of bed every morning despite an utter lack of motivation, and how to finesse my way out of crowded parking lots. And here we are now, June 15th, 2018, sitting together as a class for one last time. I guess this is the part of my speech where I'm supposed to bring tears to your eyes and tug at your heartstrings with an inspirational quote or a call to action, but that's not really my style. Instead, I'd like to offer you a few words of advice. Giulianna's life tips. Tip number 1, when you say you're going to do something, do it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, just do it. Never make promises that you can't keep and never go back on your word. That's how you earn respect. Tip number 2, speak your mind and never apologize for being too real. I've often been ridiculed for not having a filter. Giulianna, some would say, just because you think it in your head doesn't mean it has to come out of your mouth. Some things you should probably just keep to yourself. This could be true, but at least you'll never have to wonder how I really feel. What you hear is what you get, even if it's not necessarily what you'd like to hear, so be careful who you ask when you're wondering if your jeans make your butt look big. But let's be real, it's 2018. Isn't that what everybody wants anyway? They do make your butt look big. You're welcome. Tip number 3, my last and final tip. When in doubt, just send it. Life's far too short to live with regrets and thoughts of what could have been. Live every day like it's your last and find what you love and let it kill you. Metaphorically, of course, don't actually let it kill you. Make good choices. Just forget I said anything. But I digress. Just never forget to lose sight of yourself and what makes you truly happy. And for those of you worried about succeeding in college, don't you forget, C's get degrees. Thank you.